Hello and happy Halloween. Welcome wherever you are, whatever you are doing. Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Nick, and with me as always is the ghost with the most, but don't say his name 3 times. Ladies and gentlemen, the Captain.
I won't do it. Can't do it. Won't do 2 shows in one night, babe. It's good to see you, and it's good to be seen. Thanks so much for telling a friend. Make sure you tell all your friends. Run around screaming at your neighbors. Give me some candy. Listen to True Crime Garage.
Tonight at the Halloween party, we are drinking Octoberfest by Brooklyn Brewing from Brooklyn, New York. That's the garage grade. How about we give it 4.5 bottle caps out of 5? This rockin' Brooklyn Octoberfest was brought to us by some of our ghastly garage nasties. First, we have Noel in Grove City, Ohio. That sounds like a wonderful little community. We also have Lauren in Spokane, Washington. And there's Elaine in Vestal, New York. Elaine says, nice jib.
Nice jib back to you.
Also,
I don't know if we should call them our nasties. I don't know how nice that is.
It's a Halloween
nice
party.
Jib,
they're ghouls and ghosts.
You got a nasty jib.
That's right. Also, we want to say hi to Stephanie in Indianapolis, Indiana, who says, keep up the good work, guys. Next, we have Gwenna in Long Beach, California. Also, Jason in New York, New York. He says he wants to buy us a keg, and he also says that his favorite thing is heading to upstate New York with his dog and listening to True Crime Garage at night because it scares the hell out of him.
I want to know more about this keg that he's going to buy. Like your jib.
Wonder what it costs to ship a keg. And last but certainly not
Probably
least,
not worth it for him.
we have a very happy Halloween too, the Acid Cherry. Apparently that is one of our listeners' code names. So thank you, Acid Cherry. Sorry, the Acid Cherry. And if you want to buy us around for next week's show, go to truecrimegarage.com and click on the donate button.
Yeah, and while you're there, might as well sign up on the mailing list while you're at truecrimegarage.com.
And so you may have guessed it, tonight is our big Halloween party, and we are going to take a little break from the Halloween action. I know you're probably going to hear this a couple days afterwards, but we couldn't get it out on that night. We're traditionalist. We had to have the Halloween party in the garage on Halloween night. But tonight we're also going to talk about our favorite true crime documentaries of all time. So we're going to get to that right after this.
Oh, good one. So grab a chair, grab a beer.
And let's talk some true crime.
Maybe grab 2. Maybe grab some candy. When it says take 1, take 5. Say,
help yourself.
Thank you so much.
You've earned it.
Thank you. Let's get in the garage.
This is True Crime Garage. And this is the Halloween show.
Guilty of capital murder.
This doesn't change anything.
Our son was still
Christopher's
murdered.
dead,
Our son
and he
was
was
still
tortured
dead.
to death by 3 murdering bastards on a ditch bank. He was 8 years old. Damn system stinks.
It's a great tragedy that your kids was killed, but it's also another great tragedy that American citizens, anybody, today's public, can just be picked up for a crime they didn't commit.
Everybody in the town and in the courtroom and on the jury are all blinded by their fantasies about satanic cults.
Here it is, your court. You're right, of course. But can't imagine.
Kurt Cobain
Is dead.
hire
Hiring me is not like hiring an attorney. It's not to protect you. My job is to find the truth. All kinds of red flags started popping up. She starts telling us these things that just didn't add up.
Save the American icon, Tom.
That was suspicious to me. And this woman's husband had just been found dead, and there didn't seem to be any sadness whatsoever.
If I'm guilty, it means that I am the ultimate figure to fear, because I'm not the obvious one.
The girl known as Foxy Noxy.
Everyone is talking about it.
From as long as I remember, I wanted to be someone else.
We had no idea what kind of person we were getting. He had changed so much.
There was just something wrong about it.
About 15 buildings here have been abandoned for quite some time. They did a lot of searching for the kids here.
Specifically for Jennifer and I believe Holly Ann.
Growing up on Staten Island, Barbara and I had often heard the legend of Cropsey.
You're supposed to have a hook and axe with a knife about this big.
Cropsey was the escaped mental patient who lived in the tunnels beneath the old abandoned Willowbrook Mental Institution, who would come out late at night and snatch children off the street.
Year-old John Gosh had been delivering papers in this affluent neighborhood of West Des Moines. That was the last time he was seen.
The parents believe the boy is alive and has been kidnapped.
Johnny, we love you. We're waiting for you to come home. We're doing everything in our power to get you back. Take care, babe.
Thousands of people have been searching for the boy, but nothing.
All right, this is some Halloween party we're having here tonight, Captain.
Yeah, can I get anybody a drink? Maybe some candy?
The Captain made a scary hairy buffalo. I tell you, I had a sip of that a few minutes ago, and I fell right over.
Well, I thought there were going to be more people in the garage, but there's just me and you. It's always just me and you.
Well, and you know what? I was surprised that I sent a few invites out to some celebrities, and I'm really surprised not to see them here. You know, Johnny Depp, I talked to him, and he said, you know, I'd love to make it out to the garage for your Halloween party, but I'm busy with the Hollywood vampires. I'm on tour.
Did it kind of talk like he has a little bit of a British accent?
Well, I couldn't tell if he was
I just can't make it tonight.
I couldn't tell if he was just putting me off, you know, that if he was just like kind of trying to be nice, but not really being nice.
Well, Rachel McAdams, the invitation is always in the mail.
I also sent a Facebook invite to your good friend Anderson Cooper, but in traditional Anderson-like fashion, he didn't even bother to respond. Come on.
He said F off. That's what he replied. Well, Anderson Cooper, maybe next year. Okay, so what we decided to do, since we talk about a lot of creepy cases, and it kind of gets us down a little bit. And these are some creepy cases, but what we're going to be talking about today in the garage is our top 10 true crime documentary list.
Yes, and originally we agreed that we would each come up with our own list, and we would mesh them together, and we would, you know, come up with an ultimate garage list. But of course, we could not agree on any of these things, so we're just going to go with our different lists.
Yeah, we agreed on
a couple
some
of them lined
but,
up pretty close, I think.
Yeah, but then there was some that were not on my list because I haven't seen them yet, and there's some that you haven't seen or some that you didn't remember while you're making the list. And so it's not fair to make this complete list. So we're going to have your list, my list, and a bunch of honorable mentions.
Yeah, so if you are listening at work, we want you to encourage you to join in the Halloween party with us. Put a little vodka or a little whiskey in your coffee or something and
just a tiny bit.
Yeah, and stop working. Just get like a pad of paper and a pen and write down all these true crime documentaries.
But how about you pull a George Costanza and get underneath your desk
and just relax a little bit?
Yeah, and pull out your little alarm clock.
Enjoy yourself.
Make a little bed. Sit back and relax.
All right, without further ado, how about we do our top 10 list?
All right, but let's start with some honorable mentions. So this is a great show because one, through our social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. If we missed a documentary, please let us know about it. I mean, obviously we can't list all of them. We're just kind of going over some of our favorites, but please let us know about one that we might have missed because I mean, this is how sometimes we get involved into a case as we watch a documentary or through a recommendation. Somebody says, check out this documentary on Netflix or whatever. And then we do a two-parter. Like last week, this is what happened with the Johnny Gosch case. If you haven't listened to part 1 and part 2, just stop this one. Well, finish this one and then go back and make sure you listen to both of those. Those are great episodes, I think.
Do you have any honorable mentions for us, Captain?
Yeah, hold on. So where are my notes? The first one, which you hear in the trailer, this one I find to be pretty interesting. The Jinx.
Yes, of course. That was a widely popular one that HBO covered not too long ago regarding Robert Durst and did he kill them all? You know, is what it left us all asking. And
yeah, this is where the documentaries are going to be, I believe, in the future, going to play a bigger part in the actual case itself. I mean, most of the time, and you'll see this throughout the list, a lot of times these documentarians get involved, and because of that, and because of the hype, and because of the public pressure, you actually get some results that you wouldn't have got before. And in this documentary, famously, he's wired for sound.
Well, we got to try not to.
No, we don't want to give it away.
We got to watch out for the spoilers.
I'm the king of the spoilers. Anyways, it's an interesting documentary, and if you haven't checked that out, I recommend that.
The gist of it is this. I mean, we have this guy he's raised in a wealthy family, and he is somewhat successful himself. Their family's involved in some kind of real estate in New York, but throughout his life, people around him keep dying. And you know, you got to figure out the Jinx. That's why it's called the Jinx. Is this some kind of curse? Is this a curse that he carries with him, or the people around him are cursed? Or does he have a hand in this? So check out the Jinx. That's a good honorable mention. We also have Cocaine Cowboys.
Yeah, I've only seen clips of the Cocaine Cowboys, but I've heard good things.
I saw the first one. I think this came out in 2006. This was about the Miami drug wars from the 70s and the 80s. And I believe that they did a follow-up, a Cocaine Cowboys 2, but I've not seen that one.
And the one that I have not watched yet, and it's been on my list to watch for a long time, is The Staircase. I have heard a lot of things. I've heard a lot of good things.
But to give it credibility, I've seen it, and it's a really good one. There's the situation is this. So there's this gentleman. Well, you can decide if he's a gentleman or not. He's a retired military. And I do want to point out, we're going to talk about each one of these documentaries a little briefly. That way you can decide which ones you want to watch. But however, we are going to go off of memory because obviously we didn't have time to sit down and watch 10 or 12 documentaries just to tell you all about them. So this gentleman, he was in a retired military. I believe he may have served in Vietnam, and he became an author. He wrote something, wrote about some of his war stories. And he had a wife that dies accidental death on the stairway, but they're trying to figure out, was this an accidental death or was this a murder? So,
right. I mean, I've just heard a lot of good things, and like I said, it's been on my radar to check out for a while.
I think that was an 8-parter, and I want to say that may have been like a Sundance Film Festival, some kind of award winner.
That's the problem, is sometimes these documentaries are so long that it's like people go, the listeners will say, "Hey, have you checked this out yet?" And I go, "No." And they go, "Well, it's only 8 parts." It's like, well, but we got to work on a show for next week.
Yeah. But for everybody out there, a lot of these are easy to kind of binge through. I think I watched The Staircase, even though it's 8 parts. I think I watched it in 2 nights.
We also got Into the Abyss and Central Park 5.
Yeah, so Central Park 5 is about an old case from Central Park, New York, and that was, years ago. There was something with teenagers, and they were kind of rioting, loosely rioting and terrorizing citizens in Central Park.
Mm-hmm.
And a woman, I believe she was jogging, and she was attacked or raped by this group of teenagers, but it's been speculated over the years, are they innocent or did they actually commit this crime? So that's a good one. And Into the Abyss as well is a good one, and that is about the after effects of a person having committed a crime and the prison sentence and life in prison afterward.
All right, let's get into our top 10 list.
Starting with number 1. No, of course, that's not how you do these things. Starting with number 10.
Mm-hmm. What's your number 10?
Number 10, I have Cropsey. Have you seen Cropsey?
Yes. I haven't seen it all. I've seen parts of it because I feel like I missed something. Like I started it, then I started again, but I think I missed about 15, 20 minutes.
Okay, but did Cropsey make... See, here's the interesting thing here, Captain, is we've not fully reviewed each other's list. So we may have some on your top 10 and mine as well. So as we go through these, you mentioned if that made your list as well. Did Cropsey make it somewhere in your top 10?
Yes, it made my list a little higher.
What'd you give it?
Well, I'm not going to give that away right now. We'll go your top 10, my top 10.
Leave us in suspense. I love it.
Yeah, so anyways, it got 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, 62% from the audience. So kind of a drop off there.
So 90% from the critics, 62 from the audience.
Yeah. So
critics loved it. Half the audience loved it. I loved it. I was in that half that loved it. This was a story about we have Joshua Zeman, who grew up in Staten Island. He is the documentarian that he did Cropsey, and he's done a couple others. Mm-hmm. He grew up on Staten Island, and he had always heard this story about Cropsey. And well, what was Cropsey? Well, Cropsey was the last name or the name given to a maniac who had escaped from a mental hospital, and he was out snatching kids off the street and killing them. And Josh grows up, and he learns that, actually when he was a child or when he was a teenager, there was a girl taken from his neighborhood. So as he grows up and he realized that there was a man named Andre Rand who had actually been on trial for killing a couple of kids. And what Josh wanted to figure out was kind of the old chicken or the egg scenario. What came first? Was it the legend of Cropsey that came first, or was it Andre Rand who was the real life monster?
Yeah, and I think a lot of times with documentaries, for me at least, it's you like the idea of the story. Maybe not so much, the filming of it, the soundtrack, and all those stuff. They play a part,
mm-hmm.
but I think it's really more the idea or the case itself. Whether or not you like the documentary.
Yeah, and it's neat, too, when there's somebody that's from the area, can tell you stuff about the area that you would not have known, that some other guy or girl couldn't have just walked in there and presented it in that way. So check out Cropsey. What was number 10 for you, Captain?
Capturing the Freedmans.
Okay.
This was done in 2003, and Rotten Tomato rating of 97% and 89%. It's rated R. The running time is 107 minutes. And what's fascinating to me is I believe that this documentary is done by one of the older sons. It's basically this documentary about the dad and the youngest son get charged with these heinous crimes, and then it's like going through the whole scenario. It's fascinating. What I find about it is it's very unnerving. It's like once you see this documentary, you can't unsee it.
Okay.
But I just remember I was studying jazz in college, And I had this guy that would just come into every rehearsal just going on some rant about whatever. And he was ranting about this documentary he just watched. And I just remember like writing it on my arm. Like, I need to find this documentary. So it was fascinating. If you haven't seen it, Capturing the Friedmans is a definite one that I think you should check out.
I have not, and I'm going to go ahead and jot that down on my arm to make sure that I watch that. Number 9 for me, I have The Imposter.
Yeah, this is a really good film, good documentary. This is shot really well.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cinematic. They actually reenact a lot of the events using the actual characters from real life. So they'll take scenes that happen that they don't have footage for, and they reenact them using the actual people.
And this has a lot of twists and turns in it. When just, you think you're heading down one path, and they take you down another way, and then they take you another direction. So this was The Imposter. This was the story of Nicholas Barclay. He was a young boy that has gone missing, and they've not found him. But then 3 years later, they think that they found him in Spain.
Yeah.
And this person comes forward that's about 3 years older, and they start talking to him, and he's reunited with the family. And I'll let the listeners check it out from there. We don't want to go too far.
The Imposter was done 2012. It's been making a big buzz because it's on Netflix now. You can check it out on Netflix. 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, 78 from the audience. Rated R, and the running time is 95 minutes.
I'll tell you what, that's probably one of the most recommended ones as far as people recommending true crime documentaries to me. Like every couple months, somebody's like, "Oh, have you seen The Imposter? Oh, you have to see The Imposter." And
I think it's definitely worth checking out if you haven't done so already. Number 9 for me is Amanda Knox, which was done in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Had a big buzz because it was a Netflix, I believe, a Netflix original.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that.
Well, it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix now. No rating on this one. Runtime is 92 minutes. 89% and 76% on Rotten Tomatoes. I like this. Visually, it's just beautiful. Tons of scenes. And this is a case that has been recommended to us a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
Cover Amanda Knox is a case that I'm not really familiar with. This is one of those cases, Anderson Cooper, Nancy Grace. A lot of people, when this case blew up, when it did, tons of news coverage. Those, to me, cases like that, Amanda Knox, a million other ones, OJ, when they become this like pulp culture nonsense to me, I normally start tuning out.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know much about the case. So for me, it was a great documentary to watch. I have a really good understanding of the case now, I think. And also when people suggest these cases after watching this documentary, I don't feel like I have much to bring to the conversation.
Do you find that you end up having a better experience when you have no idea about the case and then you sit down and watch a documentary, or do you find that it's a better experience to know of a case and be excited that there's finally a documentary about it?
I think for me, it's just not knowing anything, and then when you go in, then you start learning. But what you will learn through time and time again. There's always holes in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And look, they're putting together an hour-and-a-half documentary on this, on some kind of crime, just like our shows. People will constantly say to us, "Oh, you missed this part, or you missed this thing." Well, we're putting together an hour show on a case. I mean, we are going to miss some things.
Yeah. Sometimes there's a lot more to cover than just 1 hour. And we do have to skip over some of the smaller details.
Yeah. So number 9 for me is the Amanda Knox. I think it's, visually, they did a great job. And like I said, I have a better, clear understanding of the case. So number 8 for me would be The Case of JonBenet Ramsey. This is the 3-part miniseries that was done by CBS, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
This was done in 2016.
This was just recently, very recently, and not only within like the last 6 weeks or 2 months maybe.
Yeah.
And this was kind of funny because you and I had recommended this to each other almost simultaneously. I said, "Oh, there's some new JonBenet stuff coming out," and you said, "Oh, you got to watch this one." And neither of us had watched it before recommending it to the other.
And as far as cases go, I mean, if somebody asked me to do my top 5 cases or even top 3 cases of all time, cases that I've looked into over and over and over and over again, this would be one. JonBenet Ramsey case has always really, baffled me. You have some really interesting characters in this miniseries. You have Henry Lee, which has some connections with the OJ case.
Yeah, Henry Lee is the he's been involved in a lot of the forensics as far as physical evidence goes, and how a crime could take place and the movements of the people and why there's blood here and not blood there. Sure, if you've had to have seen Henry Lee before.
Yeah, I think the thing about this miniseries or documentary, 20% on Rotten Tomatoes, 16% with the audience, so it's very low. I don't know if that's because they just don't believe the theory that they came up with, but I thought what was bold was it's this panel of people, experts, of experts. They come up with this theory, which is not an original theory, but they add a lot of details to it, and then they make some pretty damning claims, so much so that there are now lawsuits. If you have not seen this, I would recommend this for sure.
Yeah, it didn't make my list, but I loved it. And it didn't, sometimes when you watch something on TV and it's a 3-parter, like such as this, you kind of forget that it's actually a documentary,
And that's my thing, is I kept on thinking, well, it was a mini series. It was a TV show, technically, a TV series. Should it make the list? But it is, by definition, a true crime documentary.
I think you picked a good one. Number 8 for me was the very famous, ever popular Making a Murderer.
Yes, which I still have not seen.
Which is the Stephen Wright case, and I'm sure there's people sitting in their garage at home booing you right now. But you don't need to boo the captain because like we said, he's seen some that I've not. This one
I've read about this, and I've also listened to a lot of podcasts about the case.
And here's the thing for me: I think it was. Cinematically, it was well done. It looked good. The music was great. The way that they put everything together, it's kind of a collage, and I found it extremely entertaining. I kind of begrudgingly liked it because I disagree with their theory, and it made me put off watching it for quite some time. But I did enjoy watching this one because I thought it was so well done. Right. It's a little skewed in my opinion, but
this is still on my list to get to. I mean, we started a true crime podcast. I don't know if you know about this, True Crime Garage, and the biggest true crime podcast probably of all time is Serial, and it took me at least a year or so to dive into Serial, which was bad for me. I mean, it took weeks off my life of researching the case over and over. So that's probably one of the reasons why I've stayed away from that documentary, but I probably should watch it.
Making a Murderer on Rotten Tomatoes, we get 98% by the critics and 95% by the audience. Of course, this came out in 2015, and they are making a second go-around of this. Yeah, second season of Making a Murderer.
Again, this is technically classified as a TV show and not a documentary, but as we all know in the true crime world, it's a documentary.
Yeah, we're very loose about the rules here in the garage.
All right, let's get back to the list right after this quick beer break. All right, we're back. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. How about another Octoberfest, Captain? Because you know what? These things expire as soon as it turns November. So you have to drink them all up before the end of October. It's the last night. Happy Halloween.
That's how it works.
That's how it works. We have like 3 hours until my Cadillac turns into a pumpkin.
All right. So what number are we on? We're number 7.
We're at 7, sir.
Go. I'll start with mine. Mine was The Imposter, so I had it a little higher than yours. Again, we don't really need to talk about it. We already talked about it. So that's my number 7. Your number 7, sir, is...
Me, I had an old one. This is a oldie but a goodie. It's called The Iceman Tapes, Confessions of a Mafia Hitman. And on Rotten Tomatoes, it got 84% by the audience. This one came out like in the, don't quote me on this, I want to say early 90s. But this one I saw on cable when I was younger, and it was like very eye-opening to me because this guy was a true psychopathic killer in every sense of the word.
Right.
It's about Richard Kuklinski.
Say
and
that fast after all those Oktoberfest.
Yeah, let's not say it again. But he worked for the mafia as a hitman, and sometimes he just offed people that he didn't like. But it was crazy to me because when I was younger, I always thought that, you had serial killers, and I understood that there was a mafia out there. But I saw this when I was probably 11 or 12 years old, and I was like, oh my goodness, there's this guy that's his job. He just has no problem killing people, like lots of people.
Maybe he turned his hobby into a living. Maybe that's what it was.
Could be. That's why he's the Iceman. He is cold. He's a cold-blooded killer.
Yeah, I've seen this before, and I've actually listened to a bunch of interviews. I believe they had some stuff on Coast to Coast on this back in my days of traveling around and listening to Coast at night. I believe they talked about the Iceman before, but I believe I've seen this. I didn't have it on my list, but again, like you said, it's this weird thing where it's like sometimes, it is a crime. It is a true crime. It didn't register in my brain, but it's definitely, I'd definitely recommend it as well. So let's get to my number 6, another one that we don't have to talk about because we already did. Cropsey. Like I said, to me, it was just the idea of, a small town boy, here's some rumors, is there some truth to it, and dives into it. A little bit of armchair detective type stuff. I just like the whole premise of the whole thing.
And if you have not seen Cropsey, it is on Netflix. So go check out Netflix with Cropsey.
All right, your number 6 is
The Devil and the Death Penalty. This is this is an interesting one. This is about Roy Norris and Lawrence Bittaker. They were known as the Toolbox Killers. They were serial killers in the 70s. These were some of the worst of the worst.
Why do they call them toolbox killers?
Well, because they would travel around in a van and they would abduct these teenage girls and they would torture them using things from their toolbox.
Okay, I shouldn't have asked you.
You should not have asked because you're stuck thinking about that for a while.
This beer is tasting great now.
But the other part of this, it's just as much about the two killers as the kind of the failed death penalty in California. These guys have been on death row for so long. I think, now forgive me because it's been a few years since I've watched it. I'm not certain. I think Norris might have passed away due to like natural causes or something like that while he was, but I know Bittaker is still on death row to this day, and he was like convicted. These crimes took place in the 70s.
And all that tax money to keep him alive, and all that tax money to all the legal processes they have to go through the appeals and everything.
And I think that when this, the guy that created this documentary, he grew up somewhere in the area, and he had returned to his hometown, and he kind of like started asking people about, do you remember Lawrence Bittaker? And he just assumed he would have been executed by then.
Right.
And it blew his top to figure out that they've not killed the guy yet. The state that I live in that condemned him to death has not killed him yet. And we're talking about, I think at the time when this came out, there was like 700 or 800 people in California, in the state of California, still on death row for crimes they've committed a long time ago.
Yeah. I have not seen this documentary, so it being so high on your list, it's something I definitely want to check out.
It's a lesser known one.
All right, so number 5 for me. I think that's where we're at. This beer is getting in the way of me keeping track. I have Who Took Johnny, which we covered the John Gosch case last week, a 2-parter. I was surprised to find out that this was done in 2013.
It was 2013?
Yeah, it's seen a kind of a resurgent with it being on Netflix, but unless that's a typo, this basically this kind of set around for 3 years, but now is getting some buzz. Like I said, we did a 2-parter on that. It doesn't have a Rotten Tomato meter like overall. I believe it's just an audience. That's 84%. This is pretty short. This is 76 minutes, so you can kind of dive into this. The reason why I like this one so much is, it's kind of, here's what's tough. Did I enjoy watching it? I don't know. And now I know that sounds ridiculous. What does that mean?
Go ahead.
But it's like I immediately watched it and immediately started diving into the rabbit hole.
Oh, see.
So it's like, did I love the documentary? I don't know.
Like the story didn't end for you when the documentary was
Right,
over.
just
You went
kept going
immediately
and going.
into Sherlock Holmes mode and like Googling things and trolling
Yeah,
the
and
internet.
I had a 3-hour long conversation about this case last night on the phone. It's like it just keeps going and going. And there's so much that the documentary actually misses. Weird things. Again, the documentary is 76 minutes. We did a 2-parter on it. There's a lot of weird stuff to talk about. And even in our 2-parter, we missed some weird little things that happen. Whether they're true or not, I don't know. But we missed bringing those up.
Yeah.
But I think it's such a fascinating case. And if you haven't heard of the case, it's a great way to dive into it.
I have it a little higher on my list. It did make my list as well. But one of my favorite things to do, I don't watch a lot of TV or a lot of movies, but one of my favorite, oddly enough, even though it's one of my favorite things to do, I enjoy watching things with other people because I like to get their perspective afterwards. I like to have the little conversations afterwards. And so I asked somebody to watch this documentary with me who took Johnny. And I was a little worried because when you sit down and you're interested in something and you're excited to watch it,
right?
You want the other person to have a pleasurable experience as well. And you know me,
well, not me. I want to watch something. And I want somebody to be bored out of their mind.
Well,
get up and leave, but leave me the popcorn, right? Go get me a sandwich while you're bored. That's all. That's
what you want out of life.
No, I'm just messing around.
But what I want is the other person to be entertained. And
of course. Yeah.
I was a little worried because you know me, big true crime dork. I knew I was going to be entertained. And I asked this person to watch it with me.
Biggest dork.
And
true crime dork.
At some point, like halfway through, I'm the kind of person I can get up from a movie or from a documentary as long as I keep an ear out and can hear what's going on. I don't mind walking away from the screen for a second.
Right.
I went to the fridge to grab an Octoberfest, and in the process, I stepped in front of the screen.
Yeah.
How dare I? The other person was so into it. I kind of got a little yell there. They were like, "Hey, come on, door, move out of the way." Yeah.
They should have hit you. No, it's a good film. I definitely check that out. What is your number 5?
My number 5 is Dear Zachary, a letter to a son about his father. This came out in 2008. I watched it on vacation a year or so ago.
What a nice thing to watch.
True crime
on
dork.
vacation.
True crime. The sun went down, and I decided, hey, what a good night to pop some popcorn and have a couple beers and true crime it up. It was 2008.
True crime and chill, I think they call that.
Running time is about, I think it's 95 minutes, and this got a critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes of 94% and an audience rating of 96%. So the audience was even better than the critics here. Now, this one is I'm not going to lie to you, Captain. It's very entertaining, extremely entertaining, but it's probably the saddest one on my list. This one, I can't remember if I choked up. I can't remember if there was a tear rolling down the cheek.
Yeah.
But there was definitely the old lump in the throat was getting me a few times. And this is about a guy that grew up with another guy, and they were friends. Okay, good friends. The one guy goes on to be involved in Hollywood or in films somehow.
Yeah.
So when he's growing up, he's always behind the camera, and he's asking his friends to be, act out a skit for us, do something funny. So he's
very Dawson's Creek.
Yeah, he's always interviewing or filming his friends doing things. And one of his friends grows up to he's unfortunately becomes a murder victim.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a lot of old footage of this guy. I don't have his name in front of me, but he has a son, and his name is Zachary. And so as an adult, he wanted the young son to know his father.
Yeah.
And so he started piecing together things that he had filmed about his father, as well as documenting the crime itself. And the thing that it's interesting. I wouldn't say as much from a true crime perspective, just from a documentary perspective. It's extremely entertaining, and the victim in this crime is I mean, he could have been. I think he could have been a movie star. He had a great personality.
Yeah.
He was very charming. He was naturally funny.
Like the captain.
Yeah, he was good. He was just great on camera. So I recommend Dear Zachary, a letter to a son about his father.
All right, let's get to number 4. Let's start with your number 4.
My number 4 was one that you had already mentioned. Who Took Johnny?
All right, so you had it one spot higher than me.
Yep.
So definitely check that out again, like we said. On Netflix.
Somewhat of a general consensus there. You have it 5. I have it 4.
Yeah, and I think as people are yelling and screaming, "Oh my God, that shouldn't be 10," or right.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is the list. I mean, if I woke up tomorrow, the list would change tomorrow. The list is going to change 6 months from now. I mean, as far as it's always like when you just look back on it. And so when I was going over my list, I kept on thinking what was the anticipation?
Yeah.
What did I feel right afterwards? And that's kind of hard to remember. Again, I have it so high, and I couldn't even tell you if I liked the documentary. I just dove into the case so hard.
Well, for me, my top 3 were pretty set in stone. It was easy for me to write down my top 3, and after that, I knew of 7 others that I loved.
Right.
But they're, like you said, they're almost interchangeable with one another. If a week from now, you could flip my number 10 Cropsey with number 4 Who Took Johnny.
I was actually surprised by my top 3. I surprised myself.
Again, leaving us in suspense.
So number 4 for me
Yes.
is Finding Emma Filipoff, which another case that we covered.
Mm-hmm.
This is a case that I recommended. We get listeners will recommend cases to us through social media and the website and stuff like that. You can also give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and leave us a little recommended case for us there. But there are times that, you'll present a case to me. Hey, I know of this case. It's really interesting. Let's talk about it. This is one that I actually brought to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually on a list, like this master list of one of my friends said, hey, here's some interesting cases. And then I also found it again. It was on mysterious disappearance cases. Again, if you haven't listened to our episodes on that, go do so. But documentary, I don't know if this is a documentary or not. It's by Fifth Estate. I watched it on YouTube. That's the only way I know how to watch it. It's 45 minutes. It's pretty. Right. It's almost like a Dateline special. I couldn't find any rankings or ratings on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, it was one of those things. As I'm watching it, quickly wanted to start diving into the case, and it's a case that still fascinates me today, and one of those things where if I see anything posted about this case, I immediately start clicking forward and trying to check out. Still baffled by it. So that's my number 4. Number 3. Well, I'll start with mine.
Sure.
Okay, I have West of Memphis. This was done in 2012. 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, 87. That's the audience. It's rated R. Runtime is about an hour or 146 minutes. Now, this is a film about the West Memphis 3. And to me, it's part 2 of the famous documentaries,
mm-hmm.
the Paradise Lost. To me, it's just the 4th installment.
Gotcha.
But it is done very differently. Damien Eccles and some of the other members of the West Memphis 3 are actually involved in the production of this, and they're producers of the case. So there is definitely an argument that the opinion of this is skewed. But like I said, I was reading some reviews on it, and one of the guys said it wasn't watching a film. It was kind of just more like watching a TV show. That was his opinion. I could see that. I thought it was good. I thought it was done nice. But again, there's some skew viewpoints, But it's just such a fascinating case to me that it's the part 4. After the trilogy.
It did not make my list, and not because it wasn't good. I mean, it's just you can't. You wouldn't allow me to squeeze 13 documentaries into a top 10 list.
Well,
and rightfully so.
Well, let me tell the viewers what happened.
Okay.
Right. So we decided that We knew about a month back. This was your idea. You said, hey, let's give the listeners 2 episodes for Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
So we had cases lined up, and then we started talking about this Who Took, Johnny Gosh case because of the documentary. And then we kind of moved some things around. So we were going to release it, the Halloween special on the Monday, but we decided, well, we'll do John Gosh.
We should finish up John Gosh. Yeah.
Right. And then we had a producer friend of ours say, you should have did your Halloween episode on Monday and then did part 2 on Wednesday. I thought, one, that's a cruel joke because you're waiting for part 2 and then you see that we put out a show and it's not part 2. The other thing about it too is anytime that we're diving into a case, you got to really stay focused on that case.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, a lot of my friends will tell me, your documentary ass is what they say, because they'll say, check out this. And I say, I can't.
Yeah.
And it's not because I didn't want to watch. My buddy told me to check out Who Took Johnny for weeks, but I couldn't. We're on cases. We're on to the next case. And sometimes if you watch this documentary and you go down a rabbit hole, it's going to affect the episode for next week. So, anyways, I'm losing my train of thought.
I just
keep
way
going
outside.
and going and going.
You were talking about what had happened. We set this up about a month ago that we were going to come up with a top 10 list.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And so the thing was, we said we're going to do a top 10 true crime documentary list. Top 10.
Yeah.
So then Nick tells me, texts me over the weekend or whatever, I sent you my documentary list.
Yeah.
Top 15.
Top 15.
I'm like, we said top 10. Top 10.
I couldn't stop. I started writing the list and I was like, oh, this one. Because when you get to 10 and you're like, oh, that's the final part of the list. But I got like 3 other things, 4 or 5 other things.
Well, we get asked a lot what documentaries we like. We get asked a lot what are our opinions of those documentaries. So we just thought it would be kind of a fun thing to do. And then we wouldn't have to dive into a case and, for Halloween and stuff. Give us a little break from the goriness that we have to deal with.
Well, and my quick take on the West of Memphis documentary was, like I said, it didn't make my top 10 list, but I liked it a lot. And you're exactly right. The 4th installment, that's the best way to describe it. I don't know that we really need to tell a whole lot of people about this one. I assume it's been watched by the masses. But for me, my first takeaway is it's kind of a more updated, bigger budgeted version of the Paradise Lost trilogy.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same charm, I don't think. So what's your number 3?
My number 3 came out in 2014, and it's called Killer Legends. Have you heard of this one?
This is done by the same guy that did
Cropsey.
Yeah, Cropsey.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Joshua Zeman, and this came out in 2014, Killer Legends. It's 85 minutes long. Audience score only 50%, which is very surprising to me.
You said Zeman?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he needs to drop a little bit of money into the beer fund because we're promoting all his movies on our show.
Well,
just drop a little money into the beer fund.
Well, I spoke with him about a couple of his documentaries, and one that he has coming out. He has a show coming out called The Killing Season, which will be on A&E, and it starts November 12. But I wanted to get his take on some of his documentaries, specifically, Cropsey and Killer Legends. And Killer Legends, I filled out this list before I knew I was going to talk to him. And after I saw my list, I thought, well, I should ask him about some of his documentaries. And he, this one is great, Captain, because I'll tell you why. Mm-hmm. You grow up and you hear about all these different urban legends. There's we spoke about when we covered the Phantom Killer, the man with the hook,
right.
The hook hand guy. We also talked about, what's famous right now in the news. We have these clown sightings.
Right.
That's a weird thing, right? With all these clowns that are scaring children, or they're in parks, or they're in the woods and they're scaring people.
Uh-huh.
So what Joshua did was he set out to explore these different urban legends, and he wanted to see if there was any truth to, was there a crime that happened somewhere a long time ago, and at some point the the real life story manifests itself into this urban legend.
Right.
Yeah, and
kind of like with Cropsey. I mean,
similar thought, yeah. And
but it's a different urban legend he covers on this one.
Yeah, he's able to track some things back, like the poison Halloween candy or razor blades in the Halloween candy.
Yeah, razor blades.
He was able to track that back to a case that took place in Texas. The old babysitter, the babysitter's watching the kids, and she gets a strange call, and the call's coming from inside the house. You remember that urban legend? He traces that back to some real life crimes.
When I was a banker, I had this lady that would come into the bank all the time. Little old lady, she's maybe like 4'5", and she had a pink walker, and she always I'm not gonna say but she called me Mr. Atwood.
Okay.
Mr. Atwood. And I couldn't understand what she was saying ever. But she told me one time, she goes, "Oh, you have a nice trick or treat, and watch out for the razor blade and the candy."
That's strange that she called it Edward, because you're Captain Jones.
Captain Rogers. Captain Rogers Jones. But the thing is, so every time I would see her, all I could think was, y'all watch out for the razor blades and the candy. Anyways, I hope Ruthie is doing okay out there. All right, where are we at?
I just gave my number 3, Killer Legends.
Okay.
And that one's on Netflix as well.
I have not. I'm going to write that down on my arm.
You're going to love that one. That one's because you're kind of you're into conspiracy theories.
Captain
a little bit.
Conspiracy Theory Jones.
You love the rabbit hole traveling, and
Rogers.
This is very Captain-ish.
All right, so let's do your number 2.
Okay.
This is another one that I want to check out that I have not seen. Your number 3 and number 2. Right when I saw your list, I actually wrote these down because I thought if they're so high on your list and I haven't seen these, I'd probably enjoy them.
My number 2 came out in 2004, and it's called Eileen, Life and Death of a Serial Killer. This is about Eileen Wuornos. She was a female serial killer in Florida.
She's best known as Monster, right?
Yeah, they made the theatrical version of her life was Monster with Charlize Theron.
Yeah.
And this one is incredible, and I can't remember the guy's name, but you'll see him in the film, and you'll recognize him. He's done a bunch of documentaries. And
Ken Burns.
No, it's not him.
He went and did jazz, and he did baseball, and then he went right to true crime docs.
I believe Eileen Wuornos killed 6 men, according to the court system. And this is filmed after she's in prison. She's on death row in Florida. But it's crazy because there's all kinds of drama that's not involved with her crimes. There are people that are trying to get close to her because she's become famous,
right? Because
she's a serial killer. And there's all these people that want to make movies and write books about her. I mean, the people came out of the woodwork and they were just throwing money around like there's no tomorrow. And she had she had an attorney who was probably taking money from different people to sell her story. She had a friend that she didn't know until she was on death row, who adopted her. And she had a friend adopt her. Yeah, you can be legally adopted in some states, even if you're an adult.
Well, the captain. So if you want to adopt the captain, just write into a contact page at truecrimegarage.com.
But only if your garage is bigger than this one. And we're not moving into a smaller garage.
That's right. We need to adopt the captain, Roger Jones.
So check out Eileen, Life and Death of a Serial Killer.
Yeah. Now, what did you think of the movie Monster? Did you enjoy that?
I did. I liked the movie Monster, but this for me is, I mean, it was tough. This by far, this is a great number 2. And it's a documentary that I've watched a few times. It's the kind of movie or film that if you turn on the TV, if you're flipping through the channels and you see it, you kind of you just stop and you end up watching it again. So I don't know how many times I've watched half of the documentary or the whole thing. What was number 2 for The Captain?
One that did not make your list. Soaked in Bleach. Again, maybe because I do like the conspiracy side of things. This was done in 2015. I think this is what's so weird. So the Rotten Tomato meter is at 30%. unless I wrote that down wrong, but it says 30% and 77% from the audience. So a big jump. This is not rated. Runtime is about 90 minutes. Now, basically what's happening here is Courtney Love, a couple days before Kurt Cobain's body is found, she hires a private detective. And one of the things I really like about this story is he answers the phone on a holiday. Mm-hmm. And he's writing the stuff down, and he doesn't know who Kurt Cobain is.
It was Easter, I think. He answers the phone on Easter Sunday.
Yeah, but it's like he doesn't know who he is. Now, and this is, the reason why I enjoy that part, that he doesn't know who. Well, first of all, he doesn't know who he is. He's probably the most famous rocker at the time, one of the biggest icons, that generation's John Lennon. A lot of people were just idolizing this guy. Doesn't know who he is. And having a father, that was in law enforcement and stuff, and didn't know who celebrities were, or famous musicians, people that were making a mark on people. So the fact that he didn't know who he was, and then it became the biggest thing in this guy's life. Yeah. This guy he's never heard of. And the other thing that I really like about this, okay, I don't want to try to sell it too much on why it should be number 2, but there was a lot of hype, and I would constantly see this in YouTube feeds for years. They were talking about the making of this documentary. I mean, years beforehand, I knew this movie was coming out. And so as it got closer, and there was actually a definitive date, because like for a year and a half beforehand, there was no definitive date. And when it was coming out, I believe I paid for it on pay-per-view, but I had some friends that were really interested in checking this out. And the other thing I love about this is he takes all these tapes as he's hired by Courtney Love. He takes they have phone conversation. He records them, and then they reenact the tapes. Now, I was listening to Joe Rogan actually talk about this, and he said, well, I don't know if you can believe it or not. They have actors doing whatever, and they're reenacting little scenes. No, they're not reenacting the scenes. Those are actual tape recordings of the scenes, and then there's actors portraying those characters. And there are some scenes that are reenacted, but for the most part, you're actually getting to see this footage or to hear this audio footage. Yeah. Now, the problem is there's hundreds and hundreds of hours of audio tapes, and they're picking and choosing what you get to listen to. But I wasn't necessarily a huge Nirvana fan by any means. I thought they were a good band and everything, but it wasn't like, he was like the second coming of Christ for me or anything.
Or Lennon, you mean?
And he wasn't and he wasn't the second coming of Lennon. Right. Lennon for me. But I've just always been. But I don't know. I think once people started, and I think when it happened when I was a kid, I didn't understand. Like, okay, he killed himself, and there was some rumors that maybe she was involved, but I didn't really care or look into it too much. But for some reason, this Soaked in Bleach was always on my radar. And so I was really excited when it came out. Didn't disappoint me. One of my friends would not shut up during the whole movie. They kept on going, "That's fake rain. It's fake rain."
Duh.
But if I watch scenes back, but no, even the outside scenes. There's outside scenes that it's like CGI rain.
Right. I could tell.
Yeah, but I was like, but it wasn't until she started bitching about it that it like just threw me off, and I was like, I wish they wouldn't have had that. But it's definitely an interesting case, and I believe if you just think that he committed suicide, it's enough to start making you think, oh, possibly.
It made me second guess the whole suicide. I'll be honest with you, and part of it for me, and probably maybe why it gets. Sometimes these things get a low rating, as you said, if people don't agree with the theory that's being presented.
Yeah.
And for me, that was kind of the situation here. I thought it was well put together. It was entertaining to watch. The fascinating part of it to me was just what you said, the tapes of Courtney Love talking, and some of these recordings are within days of Kurt's death, and so you're getting a very quick reaction to maybe one of the biggest tragedies in her life. And it's
authentic too.
And it's interesting to hear if you're when you're listening to her, you're trying to decide, is she being legit here, or am I supposed to be reading between the lines? Is she just putting this on? Because sometimes she does sound very guilty of something on those tapes, and other times she just sounds like a grieving widow. But it is definitely interesting. It came very close to making my top 10.
Yeah, it's just definitely, if you have an evening and you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend Soaked in Bleach.
That was 2015. Is that one on Netflix? I believe so.
I don't know. See, it's weird with the Netflix because I just got Netflix. I just got hip to the Netflix, and there, you can search, and there's tons of stuff. But I kind of just always browse what they're kind of recommending. Except for they had this stupid kangaroo movie that like Kangaroo Jack, that I didn't.
Oh.
No, here's what happened.
What else are you watching that it recommends Kangaroo Jack?
No. I was looking up the documentary called Jocko. It's on this famous jazz bass player. It said Jocko. I hit play, and it started playing this Kangaroo Jack, which I stopped within like a minute. But it's on my playlist that I played, and it recommends me some ridiculous stuff because of Kangaroo Jack.
The people at Netflix are having fun with you.
I've sent them 300 emails. Can you please take this off my playlist? I was really proud of my playlist. I thought it was, pretty. Other than like The New Girl, I'm pretty proud of the shows that are on it.
Excellent. Number one. Have we reached number one?
It's time.
It's time for the number one.
It's time for number one.
Drum roll.
Hold on, I'm not a drummer. Wait.
We actually both had the exact same number one here.
Weird.
Well, you know what? I don't know that it's entirely weird. I kind of suspected that this one would be up there pretty high for both of us, that it would fall into the 1 or 2 slot for both of us. But the other advantage that this one has is it's a trilogy. It's kind of ganged up on the other ones. Right. It's one documentary versus 3. And one case that's always fascinated us and all the listeners know, Memphis 3.
It's Star Wars. It's trilogy.
West Memphis 3 has always been one of our favorite cases, and we discussed it on this show, of course. But so the Paradise Lost trilogy is the number one for the both of us. And the first one came out in 1996. That was the first one. It was the child murders at Robin Hood Hills. Revelations was part 2, which came out in 2001. And then Purgatory was the third and final installment in that trilogy. And that came out in 2012.
Right. The same year that West Memphis,
West of Memphis
came out, which you could lump that together with all this and call that the part 4. So Paradise Lost, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
By critics or audience?
By critics. 93% by critics. Again, that's a pretty high number because this is a case that there's a big division. And the funny, there's a big division, but it constantly goes back and forth. You constantly have these, and look, I'm guilty of it too. You watch a documentary and you go, they're innocent. You watch something else, you go, they're guilty.
Yeah.
Then you hear something else and you go, they're innocent. So no rating on that. And this beer, man, it's a really good Halloween party. It's funny too. I wish they could see our costumes. We dressed up. It's just, But anyways,
yeah, you're Kangaroo Jack and I'm Batman. The Paradise Lost for me, man, it's my favorite. I could watch it 100 times. I may have watched some of these close to that. When we discussed the case about 3 weeks beforehand, I ventured back and watched these again. The first one, it grips you right away. Like as soon as you hear the Metallica music in the background. And for me, there's a couple of Metallica songs that I cannot hear to this day without immediately my mind going to some of those images from the Paradise Lost trilogy.
Yeah.
And I will say, though, for someone that, if there's anyone out there that's not seen these before, I think the third one was quite a bit less watched than the first two. But if there's anybody that's not seen these before, it's not a lot of investigation.
No.
You know what I mean? It's more of, you are being introduced to the parents of the victims. You're being introduced to the accused. And it's a lot of their personalities, especially the first one. You're seeing the initial reaction to a horrible, heinous crime. But at the same time, you're wondering, are these teenagers that are being accused, are they actually innocent, or are they guilty? And why are they being accused? You start asking yourself why at some point.
Well, in the little trailer that I made with the different clips of the documentaries, I mean, Damien Eccles says it pretty, I think, brilliantly, there's a tragedy. There's a horrible tragedy of 3 kids being murdered. The other tragedy, if that's the case, is that anybody in this country could be arrested for a crime that they didn't do. Now these guys claim their innocence. Again, you got to look at, is there evidence? This documentary doesn't do that. I think West of Memphis kind of makes it more about evidence and some other speculations. But I think some of it is I think I watched maybe parts of one when I was younger. I didn't watch it in 1996, but when we started going to talk about this case, I've always seen a bunch of clips, but to actually sit down and watch all 3 of them. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it is just nostalgic. I mean, 1996, I was roughly Damien Eccles and the West Memphis 3. I was roughly their age, big into Metallica and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of nostalgic to it. And I think that's what makes me so interested or fascinated with those documentaries.
I'll tell you what, I could watch 20 hours of Mark Byers. Just take away everything from the case. I could sit and watch Mark Byers for hours and hours. But yeah, well,
they're fascinating to watch now because, hindsight is 20/20. I mean, these 3 boys get out, on an Alfred plea. But to go back and watch what happens, and then go back and to watch not only all these parents, what they say about these 3 boys, but how that changes over time. I mean, and some of those documentaries, they're claiming, hey, I'll be at your grave. You're a son of a bitch. You're all these things, right? But then years later, we know that some of these parents, because of evidence, they're on the side of the West Memphis 3 now. There's a big culture shift, because of these documentaries.
Well, and with it being Halloween too, we should point out that there is the famous scene with Mark Byers shooting a pumpkin. He's got this big giant pistol and he's standing about 20 feet from it and he's just shooting bullets into a pumpkin.
Yeah, and screaming, "This is for you, the West Memphis 3."
Yeah, and
this is for you.
But the cool thing, the great thing, not only the Metallica music is great, but the other great thing is it's like grainy and gritty, and it doesn't look like overly produced.
It's not that Hollywood,
right? Yeah. It's not Hollywood at all. And the first time I watched it when it was on HBO when I was younger, and it blew my mind. I couldn't stop watching it, and it felt like the first reality TV thing that I had seen. You know what I mean? The first one that had sucked me in like that, and I couldn't quit watching it. But yeah, grainy, gritty, it's the best.
Yeah, like you said, there's not going to be tons of information about the case. I'd really argue that if you watch it, like once I did the research for our episode on the case and then I watched it, I kept on thinking, there's no information.
There's about 10 minutes of evidence in each one of the 3 movies.
Right, so it's kind of confusing. It's not like with the Amanda Knox case and some of the other cases that really kind of, or the case of John Benet Ramsey, those documentaries really lay out a solid timeline, some solid evidence, what you could argue as far as what evidence is, and what is speculation. These documentaries don't do that, you know. So, but I think they're fascinating, and I think even a year from now, if you ask me what my favorite, I think that'd probably be always maybe number one.
Yeah, for me,
because it was one of the first ones. You know, the first ones that really brought this subject to my attention.
Well, and while we're on this subject, same for me. It's still going to be my number one for maybe forever. But recommended reading, we can't do recommended reading after we talk about all these documentaries you should watch. So for this week, we're going to do recommended viewing. Go to our website, and we're going to have the Paradise Lost trilogy. They have a little 3-pack box set that you can get. You can get that through our Amazon banner. Pick that up today at no extra cost to you. It helps the garage. And the captain really wanted candy corn, but it was not in the budget for this year. So pick that up through our website, truecrimegarage.com.
Nobody likes candy corn. Yeah, you can get anything through Amazon, and they just give us a little kickback on the website. So again, thanks. Hope everybody enjoyed the top 10 list. Do we want to run them down real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So mine is Capturing the Freedmans, Amanda Knox, number 9. Number 8 is The Case of JonBenet Ramsey. Number 7 is Imposter. Number 6 is Cropsey. Number 5 is Who Took Johnny. Number 4 is Finding Emma Filipoff by Fifth Estate. Number 3 is West of Memphis. Number 2 is Soaked in Bleach. And number 1 is the Paradise Lost trilogies.
Captain, I enjoyed your list. I'm going to check out, you had a couple on there that I have not seen. I'm going to check those out. My list, number 10, Cropsey. Number 9, Imposter. Number 8, Making a Murderer. Number 7, The Iceman Tapes. Number 6, The Devil and the Death Penalty. Number 5, Dear Zachary. Number 4, Who Took Johnny. Number 3, Killer Legends. Number 2, Eileen, Life and Death of a Serial Killer. And of course, number 1 is the Paradise Lost trilogy. I hope everybody had as much fun at our Halloween party as we did, and I hope you enjoyed our list. If there's any on there that you've not checked out, make sure you check those out. I do want to give another thank you to Joshua Zeman for taking time to discuss his documentaries with me, and remind you to check out his new show, The Killing Season, which is about the Long Island serial killer case.
Yeah.
And it's starting on A&E, and that takes place, it will start November 12th. It's an 8-part series, so check that out.
Yeah, that's going to be a really good one. And hopefully maybe we can follow it and do kind of a, recap, like what we thought of each episode or something.
He told me watch a couple episodes and give him a call back. He said, we're going to have questions. He goes, this is going to blow your mind what you're going to see with this case.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in it, and we got to get back to our Halloween party. I know that a little bit later the captain is going to karaoke the Monster Mash. It's been requested.
It's a mash. It's the Monster Mash. But thanks for listening. Thanks for telling a friend. And we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, we hope everybody had a happy and safe Halloween. Don't forget to get out there and vote next Tuesday. And until then, be good, be kind, and don't litter.